or our advertisers.
With me right now live from St. Paul as they're wrapping up the Minnesota legislative session, Representative Mary Franson. Mary, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us. Hopefully you had a chance to hear what I just said. I don't know if you've heard about these billboards that are now up on the side on the border in Moorhead saying, hey, North Dakota's open for business. A Moorhead City Councilman is saying that's not fair, it's not right. Your comments on it?
Unfortunately, kind of embarrassing. The entire state of Minnesota right now, our budget, taxing businesses, taxing everybody. It's kind of embarrassing. However, you cannot fault states such as North Dakota for reaching out to businesses in Minnesota where they can probably do a heck of a lot better and improve their bottom dollar and yet create more jobs. Unfortunately, those jobs won't be created in Minnesota. They'll be created into the state of North Dakota.
Are you on the House floor right at this moment by chance?
I am in the chamber, so if you hear people asking me who I'm talking to, it's because they don't understand I'm doing a Skype interview right now.
All right, well, I want to bring up a graphic for you. I'm going to do my best to share it with you over the airwaves here. But one of the things that's shocking to me is the final bill comes out at $2.1 billion of new taxes. Now, the governor initially proposed 1.8. The Senate proposed 1.86. The House proposed 1.4. How in the world do you compromise at 2.1?
All I can say is this is a tax and spend budget. There was originally a $646 million deficit the state was facing. But let's remember, 2 years ago when I took office, we were facing a $6.2 billion deficit. And with the good choices the Republican budget had, we turned that deficit around, and we were just, the tails of that was $646 million. So the Democrats' priorities in the state of Minnesota, they chose to now raise over $2 billion of taxes and fees to solve a $646 million problem. I find that very irresponsible, and Minnesota is going to pay the cost of that.
Well, I guess time will tell. Obviously, you guys had your chance to do it last session, and they voted you out, so time will tell on that. But one of the things I do want to get to, I think a lot of people are concerned about these new business-to-business taxes. Some of them did pass in this final budget deal. Tell us more about them, and what does that mean for businesses in the state of Minnesota?
Some of the business-to-business sales tax on warehouses and do other things that will exactly mean for the state, and it's been pushed off. It's been pushed off for a while in order for the legislature to do some tweaking and such, if need be, next year before it's actually implemented into state law.
Now, one of the good things I think that has come out of this budget, at least that's being marketed that way, is the fact that this bill or this budget is providing $400 million in property tax relief. That was on the top of the list for a lot of people in Minnesota. Tell us specifically where the money's coming from and how it's going to provide property tax relief for Minnesotans.
Well, those property tax relief, the dollars are actually coming out of taxpayer pockets in the form of over $2 billion worth of taxes. So on one hand, we are taxing the pockets of Minnesotans, and yet on the other hand, we're saying, hey, well, we're going to give you a property tax relief. But let's face it, property tax relief starts at the local level. And unless our cities and our counties get their spending under control, any property tax that is given to our districts and to our cities and to our counties is not going to be even there. It's just so that our cities and our counties are going to get more money, and they're going to spend more, and we're never really truly going to see any real property tax relief.
Hey, Mary, we're getting some feedback where you're at. We're going to see if we can find you a little bit quieter area. We're going to take a short break and come back and talk about some of the social issues as far as same-sex marriage, how and why you voted there. Also, obviously, today it got passed that now daycare providers can unionize in the state of Minnesota. If you've got little kids that are going to daycare, what is that going to mean for you? And again, is that just another quote-unquote tax that's going to take away some of your take-home pay? As always, be sure and join our conversation. Go to the website 630pov.com. You can email me, text me, leave me a voicemail. We'll be right back with Representative Mary. With me live out of St. Paul, Minnesota State Representative Mary Franson. Mary, again, thanks for being flexible with us here. I know you guys are extremely busy. Big vote today that passes now. I'm sure Governor Dayton's going to sign it, but now daycare providers can unionize in the state of Minnesota. I got a couple things for you, but I want to get to some questions that people asked you specifically out of our area. If we can bring up this first question from Shelley and share that with you, Mary, and get your answer to it. But Shelley Kappas basically says, what will anyone gain by the providers being unionized? Can someone explain? So help us understand, what's the benefit of these people being unionized, Mary?
There is no benefit. Child care providers are independent small business owners, and they set their own work conditions and set their own wages. There is absolutely nothing that a union can benefit that these business owners cannot do for themselves. And also, they elect people to represent them down here in St. Paul. And so anytime that there are issues, child care providers are more than welcome to contact their state legislator in order to help them with the rules and regulations that they need to see in place or taken out of their small business.
Well, no, you say there's no benefit. I have a gentleman here who's disabled. He says this. He says workers need the chance to come together to work for better wages, access to benefits, and access to training. He says, when I find people that work for me, and again, this is a disabled gentleman, he says, when I find workers that work for me, they almost always leave to go do something where they can make more money. I support this bill because it will give advocates who use self-directed services and the people who work for us a voice in fixing the system. So what would you say to this gentleman who's disabled, losing people that are helping him because they're going off and getting better pay?
Well, I would say that under this, providers are going to have to be paying fair share or union dues. Their income that they're taking in is going to be reduced. And since there is so much money, only so much money to go around, this is also going to create a lackness of care with a shortage of child care providers and also personal care attendants.
So I think you maybe already kind of answered this, but Allison Wold also asked you this, Mary. She said, so how will this unionization ultimately affect the daycare rates?
With child care providers paying fair share fees and union dues, business owners would recoup that cost by raising rates on families. And this is going to also affect our poor the hardest, because the only ones that will be unionized will be those providers that take the poorest families that receive a subsidy to help shelter the cost of child care. And so the provider is going to pass those costs on to those parents, and not only will they be paying their copay, but they will also now be paying an increase of their care to cover the cost of the union dues the child care provider will be paying to AFSCME.
I mean, Mary, I look at this budget and I go, okay, you guys just passed $16 billion in education, obviously to go to the Education Association, if you will, that union. Now you've got 12,000 daycare providers that are going to become unionized. This budget to me seems like almost a power grab by the Democrats to say, hey, we'll grease your pockets there if you're in a union, if you're in education, as long as you just vote for us and keep us in power. Am I missing something?
Well, what we're missing is that the Democrats passed this unionization of small business owners by one person. So anyone, including Representative Ben Lean, who is up in the Moorhead area, he is responsible for unionizing thousands of small business owners, responsible for parents having to put more into their budget to cover the cost of higher costs of childcare. Yes, indeed, this is the largest powerful union grab in the state of Minnesota. Took place today on the House floor by AFSCME and SEIU. To be honest, I truly believe they are the ones who are running the legislature. The House and Senate of Minnesota, along with the executive branch, have been bought and paid for with the help of AFSCME and SEIU. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we got coming down for the great state of Minnesota.
Representative Mary Franson out of St. Paul, we appreciate your time. Thanks for your hard work this session. When you get a little bit more solitude, we'll have you back on and talk more about this in detail. One last thing I want to note with you out there that are tuned in is that, you know, when you look at these dues that are taking place right now, a third of these union dues are going to be going out of the state of Minnesota. And this comes from the Minneapolis Star Tribune, not exactly a bastion of conservatism. And they're going to take a third of this, take it outside the states. As she said, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. How is it helping little kids in Minnesota? You got to look at this thing. This is a power grab.
You're absolutely right. It's a huge power grab. We're talking a minimum of $8 million being garnished from subsidy payments that are supposed to be going toward poor families to help cover the cost of child care. This This bill does not do anything to help close the achievement gap, doesn't do anything for quality of care, and it certainly doesn't do anything good for the great state of Minnesota.
Mary, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. As always, be sure and join our conversation. Go to the website 630pov.com. Email us, text us. We're going to get to your feedback in just a moment. We got a very special final view for you tonight as well. Stay close.